which is like a small seif, just indicating that certain parts of the tefillah you have to pause. For instance, when you say, Kichol Elokei ha'amim elilim v'Adonai shamayim asa, says the Shulchan Aruch, Sarich lafsik ben elilim uben Hashem. Say, Kichol Elokei ha'amim elilim, pause, and then v'Hashem shamayim asa. The Mishna Berurah writes, it's not just the only place. It also are yesh lafsik ben ki lekol, ki chol Elokei ha'amim elilim. You make a psik there as well. The general rule is, of course, if you understand the meaning, sometimes you have to be sensitive to it. Otherwise, usually the regular sidurim, they indicate where a person should be pausing and where not. If you, with just paying a little attention, a person could get that straight. Now, the Seif, the main Seif of today, in Seif Zayin, Maran writes, Sarich lechaven bepasuk poteach et yadecha umasbiya lechol chai ratzon, when we say in Ashrei Yoshvei Betecha, we have to have kavanah and intent in saying the pasuk poteach et yadecha umasbiya lechol chai ratzon. The Gemara says in Masechet Brachot, Kol haomer tehillah leDavid, anyone that says Ashrei Yoshvei Betecha, the Mizmor of Tehillah leDavid, 3 times a day, muftach lo shehu ben ha'olam haba. You're guaranteed to go olam haba. It's a tremendous thing, right? And you have that. And the skula is also brought for not needing parnasah when a person says this. Now, the Gemara says, why exactly is this mizmor special? There's so many other mizmorim and parts of Tanakh in the tefillah. We never hear anything like that about other mizmorim. And the Gemara says, if it's because of the fact that it works in alphabetic order, because if you pay attention, Ashrei Yoshvei Betecha, Odia Ruchasela, Tehillah leDavid, Aromimcha is Aleph, Bechol Yom is Gimel, Gadol is Bet, Gadol is Gimel, right? Dor Ledor is Dalet. It goes alphabetic order from Aleph to Taf. When it says at the end, Tehillat Hashem, so that's a full Aleph Bet. It just doesn't have, it's missing the Nun, the Gemara Darshins, and so on. So Gemara says, well, there are other Mizmorim also that they have that. And Gemara says, maybe it's because of the Pasuk, Poteach et Yadecha. So you see the Gemara, regardless of the Maskana of the Gemara there, you see the Pasuk, Poteach et Yadecha is extraordinary. It's a remarkable Pasuk. And again, those who understand the mystical parts of the Torah, there's so much depth in that one little Pasuk. You find people who really understand, they pause, they have thoughts before and during saying that pasuk, but nevertheless, at the very least, the simple understanding that you open your hands, you give to all the living what they need to be sustained. The real deep understanding and realization of HaKadosh Baruch Hu being the source of sustenance for the entire universe, everything that exists there, how the equilibrium of the universe works the way it works, and everything is sustained the way it is, that being in the hands of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, our recognition of that is very important. Now, whether you look at that as a segula leparnasah or you just look at it as a simple Jewish concept of us living our lives in that way, realizing that we are part of the master plan of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that certainly would be true. So says the Shulchan Aruch, goes as far as saying, Ve'im lo kiven, that if you didn't have kavanah, if you caught yourself at the end of Ashrei and you realize you're daydreaming, or on autopilot, you're just saying, and you finished, you didn't say Potach Yadecha with proper intent, says the Gemara, Sarich lachzor ul omro pa'am acheret. You must go back and say it again. So one of the only parts of the tefillah that you have to go back and say it again if you didn't say it properly is the pasuk Potach Yadecha, and that's black and white on Shulchan Aruch. It's not like a Musa Sefer or something. This comes straight from Rabbeinu Yonah in Masechet Brachot, Daf Chav Gimel. So it says the Gemara. Now, this is, by the way, this is the Gemara that I mentioned before. It's the beginning of Masechet Brachot. We just did this in Amud Yomi together. The Gemara in Daf Dalet that says Kol HaOmer Tehillah David. So it says the Mishna Berurah on that צריך לכוון, that you must have kavanah, שעיקר מה שקבעו לומר תהילה לדוד, the reason that Chazal have instituted תהילה לדוד, אשרי, to be said in the tefillah, every day is בשביל אותו pasuk, is because of that pasuk. Now, the Ben Ish Chai says that when you say the pasuk, the minhag is people open their hands as if they're accepting something, right? Because then you are doing an action that symbolizes the acceptance of Shefa, the receiving of the spiritual energy and the bracha that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives from up above. And he adds also that if you do that, you should just open your hands, but not like this. This, according to Kabbalah, is not a proper thing to do. To raise the hands up, that's not a proper thing. So Ben Ish Chai says, if you do it, just do it in a sanu, a modest way. You open, and the reason is not a childish thing, the thing that things are pouring in your hand. It is that when a person makes a siman is miltahi, that the Gemara says in Keratot, Gemara says in other places, that's why we do simanim on Rosh Hashanah. We have signs. You find that Nevi'im, they made simanim when HaKadosh Baruch Hu instructed them. We had it in the Gemara today as well, of putting a vessel, the iron vessel, to show that from the day that Beit HaMikdash is going to be destroyed, is going to be an iron curtain that we had in the Gemara today, both for positive and for negative. Navi always made a siman, a physical action, to symbolize and to also allow for the flow of that reality into the world. So therefore, we do it, but says the Ben Ish Chai, Kabbalistically speaking, you do not want to raise your hands in that way. Now, the Ben Ish Chai also says that the kavanah, the main kavanah that a person should have in the pasuk is the simple kavanah. The HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mashgiach, he has providence over the world, and everything is being monitored and everything is planned, a grand, an orchestrated plan, and Zanum Farnes Hashem gives sustenance to everything. From the greatest and largest things to the smallest creatures, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there for them to continue existing with proper hashgacha. And also, says the Ben Ish Chai, you should have kavanah in Shemot HaKodesh. Now, this is something that becomes very questionable. Even, it's very interesting. This Sidur, actually, of Od Yosef Chai, in the older Mahaduras, in the first prints, he actually took all of the Shemot HaKodesh out, and he had a whole preface in the beginning of the Sidur, how Rabbi Yaakov Moshe Hillel and other Mekubalim that he spoke with, they told him that regular people should not be having kavanah to the Shemot and so on and so forth, to Kabbalistic things. But now in the recent print, if you take a look at this edition, he has put a lot of those things back in. So again, it's debatable whether or not and how much a person should think of Kabbalistic names and so on, but nevertheless, the Ben Ish Chai says these simple things the Ben Ish Chai says everyone should do. For instance, when you say Poteach et Yadecha, the Rashi Tevot is Pei and then Aleph and then Yud. That is one of the Shemot HaKodesh, and the Sofet Tevot Poteach et Yadecha, which is the Chaf and the Taf and the Chaf Sofit. That also is another Shemot HaKodesh. These are names that have to do with the Shefa and the Parnasah. And, again, the Sidurim have these already inserted inside. If you take a look at Poteach et Yadecha, you'll usually find this right next to it. Kaf HaChaim also brings this. And the Chida, Maran Chida, and the Pele Yoetz, that they all bring that this is Mo'il LeParnasah. This is good for Shefa of Parnasah. But again, we are Am Segula. We are a nation that likes Segulot. But I always say, the pasuk says, "V'ayim shamua tishmeu el mitzvotai, v'natati gishmechem mitar hashamayim beito." Hashem says, if you listen to my Torah, if you go in my path, I'll give you rain and parnasah and everything. If it was so easy that you just do a segula, I once spoke about segulot back in West, and at the end of the shiur, everyone took out from their wallet a segula for parnasah, including some guy that had a laminated piece of paper that had instructions in it to wash it in the water 3 times a day and drink the water. Right? Wow. So, yeah, exactly. So that's already taking it too far. And I told him, I said, if it was so easy that you could just make a loophole, so why didn't the Torah say just wash something in water. It says you have to listen to all my mitzvot, then I'll give you parnasah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is saying, I want to see that you dedicated the belief system. You realize that I'm there in your life, and I want you to be committed. If you're committed to me, Hashem says, I'll be committed to you. So that's the main thing. Skulot are good. Those legitimate skulot that are brought in the Gemara and in early sources are all good. But a person, the underlining thing is you have to realize that it's not beating the system. It is climbing the system. Certain things help you climb it, but the system is when you have that connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and without it, it's like you have the keys, but you don't have the door. If you have no door, or if the lock is broken, so you have all the keys in the world, you're not going to open it. And that really is some mindset that people should realize that it's not just about segulot. It's about a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So says the Mishna Berurah, that you have to go back. First of all, we skipped a few words over here in the last אות of Mishna Berurah, שמזכיר בו שבחו של הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא משגיח על בריותיו ופרנסן. That when you say פותח את ידיך ומספר לך חיי רצון, you are mentioning the praise of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he's mashgiach on people, and he provides for them the parnasah. The Ben Ish Chai writes in that when you have this pasuk of potach yadecha, and you have the shevach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he has providence and hashgacha over all of the creatures, you say also the mizmor of Ashrei Yoshvei V'decha in the morning before you go to work, in order to recognize that I'm going to work today, and this is my mindset going to work, and you do it in minha when you're coming back from work, right? Says the Ben Ish Chai. This way, you sandwich your day with this belief that I do my job. I'm not sitting in the room saying, I'm waiting for the money to fall from the ceiling. I'm doing my job. I'm using my sechel. I'm discussing it with people. I'm trying to get advice. Do everything that it takes, research and putting the actual work and the hours in. But in the beginning and at the end, I realized that my doing is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu has commanded me to do. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has said, by the end of the day, the belief is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one that is matzliach my derech, that makes me successful in my path. And that's something actually we go to have a discussion in Daf Lamed Hey of Masechet Brachot upcoming, the Machloket Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai and Rabbi Ishmael linked together with the Gemara in Menachot of Sadi 10. So that's something that we're going to be discussing B'ezrat Hashem in the Gemara Shi. But says the Mishna Berurah, this that you have to go back and say it again if you didn't say it with proper intent the first time. Ayin b'Hayei Adam. Look at Hayei Adam. She'evi b'Shem HaLevush. He brings from Rabbi Yafa, the Levush. She'sarich lomar mipasuk potach et yadecha ad sof mizmor kaseder. It's not that you just go back and you say potach et yadecha and then you go back to where you were. No, you go back to potach et yadecha and from there on you say kaseder. Right? You go back, all the psukim in order from Potach Yadecha. That's what the Eliyahu Rabbah says in the name of the Levush. Now, if you remember, when you're in the fifth Hallelujah, you already said a bunch of mizmorim, and then you caught yourself with your daydreaming, and you didn't say Potach Yadecha with kavanah. Says the Mishna Berurah, you have no time to go back for 5 minutes and say the Chazan is going to be by Alinu Shabbat by then, right? So you can't go back really. So what do? Says the Mishna Berurah, Mikol Makom Yomar Acharat Tfilah Mipasuk Potach Ad Sof HaMizmor. At the end of Tfilah, should go back and say from Potach Yadecha until the end of Ashrei. Well, at least you have to say it from there, right? You want to say the whole Ashrei, Yazum Tereit, as they say. Do it, but at least you want to do from there and on, because it's not just in the vacuum. The pasuk is connected with the next psukim, so it should be said together with them. So the Ramah, by the way, later on in Siman Kuf Aleph, in the beginning of Siman Kuf Aleph, he brings that nowadays that we don't have kavanah. There, the Shulchan Aruch rather is discussing the halacha of someone that did not have kavanah in tefillah. If the first 3 brachot didn't have kavanah, you have to go back. And the mother says that nowadays we don't know even if they could guarantee the second time we're going to have kavanah. So therefore, the minhag has become that we don't go back, says the Rama. Right? So even though that the Rama says by tefillah you don't go back because of lack of kavanah in general that we have, but Kaf HaChaim says here in Potachet Yadecha you still go back even according to that Rama, because the reason we don't go back on the tefillah is you're going to say brachot, and if you second time also you say without kavanah, then it's brachah batala you're saying, right? But here, what are you saying? It's just saying mizmorim. You're not saying any brachot over here. So therefore, says the Kaf HaChaim, even according to that Rama in Siman Kuf Aleph, over here you would go back and do it. Now, the fact that you have to go back from Potachet Yadecha and go on, like Eliyahu Rabbah said, Chacham Obadiah Yosef also said the same thing, that when you remember that you haven't had kavanah, when you said Ashrei Yoshev Betecha and Potachet Yadecha, you go back to Potachet Yadecha, and from there you go until you finish the entire Ashrei. And he says that this is the mashma'ut of Maran Shulchan Aruch as well. Obadiah says this, that Eliyahu Rabbah says in the name of Levush, is not pulling it out of his pocket. It's mashma really in the Shulchan Aruch itself. Maran's language is mashma like that you go back to Potachet Yadecha means you go back from there and on. So therefore, that's the right way of doing it. And one last thing that the Mishna Berurah really is indicates that if you didn't have kavanah in Potachet Yadecha, after you said the other mizmorim, if you have time to go back, you should go back. If you're davening chas v'shalom b'yachid, or you're ahead of the tzibur, or you're a fast-minded person, you could manage to read from Potachet Yadecha and go all the way through all the mizmorim again, then you should do that. Ben Ish Chai seems to not agree with that necessarily. He says you only say from Somech Hashem l'chol hanoflim until Potachet Yadecha u'masbiach l'kol chai ratzon, and from Chacham Obadiah you see that you say the pasuk of Potachet Yadecha u'masbiach l'kol chai ratzon only, and then you go back to where you are, and this is the shita of Chacham Obadiah. But the Maaseh, Kaf HaChaim seems to say that if you don't have time to go back and do the whole thing, don't go back just to the pasuk of Potachet Yadecha. If you don't have time to go back and do it properly, just do it after the tefillah, and that would suffice. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll continue this in the days to come.